I hope everyone's having a good day. Everyone's having a good night. I know a lot of people are doing Valentine's stuff today. We'll probably be doing ours right after this. So we understand if you couldn't make it today or anything. If you're tuning in at a later time, we definitely would get it. I know Ashley was reaching out to a bunch of people today. So if you got a message, we completely understand. I want to talk a little bit tonight. Won't keep anybody very long. Hopefully, preach real short, about 3 hours. So everyone hanging tight. We're going to talk in 2 Kings chapter 4. I got a lot of verses. Don't worry, we're not going to read all of them. I'll do some paraphrasing when we can. 2 Kings 4, verses 8 through 37. We're not going to read all 29 verses because I don't like reading that much, especially not out loud. So I give everyone a moment. Ashley is posting it in the comment section if you're watching live and you want to pull the verses up without having to. And she said she probably won't put them all in. So, she's going to. So it's probably going to be a really large comment. But if you're in the comment section, you can pull that comment up and the verses should be all right there for you. We'll give everyone a 2 Kings chapter 4, verses 8 through 37. It's a really good story. I'm not going to do all the verses, but you should totally read all the verses because there's a million things that can jump out to you through the scripture, and it's very good. I'm going to get some water real quick because my mouth is dry. There we go. Good stuff right there. That's some high-quality H2O right there. we gotta laugh and joke, so don't worry about it. We're going to go ahead. I'm going to start reading, and we'll skip around a little bit. Let's pick up in verse 8, though. It says, "Now it happened one day that Elijah went to Shunem, where there was a notable woman, and she persuaded him to eat some food. So it was, as often as he passed by, he would turn in there to eat some food. And she said to her husband, 'Look now, I know that this is a holy man of God who passes by us regularly. Please let us make a small upper room on the wall, and let us put a bed for him there, and a table and a chair and a lampstand. So it will be whenever he comes to us, he can turn in there.' And it happened one day that he came there, and he turned in there to the upper room and lay down there. Then he said to Gehazi, his servant, 'Call the Shunammite woman.' When he had called her, she stood before him, and he said, 'Say now to her, look, you have been concerned for us with all this care. What can I do for you? Do you want me to speak on your behalf of the king or the commander of the army?' She answered, 'I dwell among my people.' So he said, 'What then is to do for her?' And Gehazi, his servant, answered, 'Actually, she has no son, and her husband is old.' So he said, 'Call her.' And when he had to call her, she stood in the doorway. Then he said, 'About this time next year you shall embrace a son.' And she said, 'No, my lord, man of God, do not lie to your maidservant.' But the woman conceived and bore a son when the appointed time had come, of which Elijah had told her. And the child grew. Now it happened one day that he went out to his father to the reapers, sowing and reaping, right? And he said to his father, 'My head, my head.' So he said to a servant, 'Carry him to his mother.' And when he had taken him and brought him to his mother, he sat on her knees till noon and then died. And she went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God, shut the door upon him, and went out." And this is where we're going to skip ahead a little bit because there's a lot here, and I'm not trying to bore y'all. So we're going to skip down to verse 32. I'll give everybody a minute. So we're in verse 21 right now. We're skipping down to 32. And it says, "When Elijah came into the house," so she's gone to go get Elijah. She laid him in Elijah's room. She's gone to go get Elijah. Quick way to catch you up there. So Elijah has come back with her, and he says, "And when Elijah came into the house, there was a child laying dead on his bed. He went in, therefore, shut the door behind the two of them, and prayed to the Lord. And he went up and lay on the child and put his mouth on his mouth, his eyes on his eyes, and his hands on his hands. And he stretched himself out on the child, and the flesh of the child became warm. He returned and walked back and forth in the house, and again went up and stretched himself out on him. Then the child sneezed 7 times, and the child opened his eyes. He sneezed 7 times in Elisha's face. So you got to know that you have to be determined when God tells you to do something, because you might get sneezed in the face 7 times. That's a lot right there. And so we pick up in verse 36, and he says, and he called Gehazi and said, call this Shunammite woman. And so he called her, and when she came into him, he said, pick up your son. So she went in, fell at his feet, bowed to the ground. Then she picked up her son and went out. That's a lot of verses. I understand. And we skipped over some that we're going to go back to. But I want to preach tonight on this topic. It's in the room. It's in the room. And so let's get a brief summary of all this stuff we just read, because it's a lot of words. And if you're like me with my ADHD, probably tuned out 2 seconds into it, because that's a lot of text to read. So we start with this woman, not just any woman. She was a Shunammite woman. That's not really the important part. The important part was that she's a notable woman. She is the type, she's like the Cruella de Vil. That's what I got a picture. She's got all the sass and all the attitude. Like, she knows she's great, and other people know she's great. That's what it means to be notable. But unlike Cruella de Vil, right? Unlike all these people we see on TV where you're just like, nobody's going to mess with that girl. She's tough, right? All those people you see on TV. This woman didn't think of herself as higher than anyone, because she just wanted to have a meal. So as Elijah's passing through town as a prophet of God, going to and fro and talking to the king, explaining what God is saying to him through Elisha. And so Elisha goes everywhere around the country of Israel, and he stops through this town, and she has to persuade him. She has to persuade him to eat. He didn't want to just stop in. It didn't say, like, it's not like Jesus, like with Zacchaeus. He wasn't just walking through the street, and he's like, Zacchaeus, I'm coming to your house. Go ahead and make some food, because I'm ready to eat. No, Elisha was just passing by, and the woman's like, hey, I would love if you come by to eat. And the point of the word persuaded means that she didn't get yes the first time she asked. Instead it was, no, I'm busy. I can't do that. I'm just passing through. But she kept persuading. She's like, you don't understand. I have all this great food cooked. I'm wealthy. We have nice meals. I picture it as like she's describing those things you see in the movies with the long table, and all the food is stretched out upon this long table of all the rich and snooty people in the movies. Like, that's probably what she's describing to Elisha. And eventually he breaks down and says, okay, I'll come. And it must have been real good, because he kept coming back. He was a returning customer at her establishment. So the woman desired to be in the presence of the man of God. And I'm going to use Elijah, and I may say God, and we're talking about Elijah, because Elijah represents God. He's a prophet. God speaks through Elisha. So the woman in the story has to start by persuading God to come to her house. It seems a little different than what we get, right? Because in our time, we just have to go to church, and that counts as being in God's house. But there's a difference when you have a desire behind it. And we talked about this before. We've done Bible studies on it before. Coming with expectation of what you're going to receive. This is just the building if you don't come with expectation or a desire for God. So she desired to be in his presence, to be in the presence of God. Not only did she desire for God to come by every once in a while, share a meal, talk a little bit, and be in his presence, she wanted him to stay with her. She wanted him to stay. And so after he kept stopping by and he kept being a returning customer, the thing we get when we come to church with expectation, right? You come to church, Sunday, maybe even Wednesday night, and you come with this expectation to receive God. But for her, that's all it was. There was no expectation throughout the week. It was confined, God was confined to her kitchen, her dining room. It was confined to that time that she had whenever Elisha would come through. And we don't know exactly how many times Elisha came through. We don't know if it was on a weekly basis, monthly basis. It was just whenever he stopped by. And so she says, you know what? We need to make a room for him because he walks everywhere. He's got to be tired. He needs a place to rest. So she goes to her husband and she says, look now. There are some versions that say, she goes, look now. You know, she's notable. Everyone knows her. She is strong. She is a strong individual. She is independent, okay? She's doing her own thing. Got it? Okay, so she goes, look now. This is a man of God, and we're going to build him a room. And not only are we going to build him a room for him to stay in, we're going to give him a bed for him to sleep in. We're going to give him a table, a chair, so he can sit at the table and work. And we're going to give him a lampstand, because when he comes in at night, if he needs to work, he needs to be able to see. And so she puts all these specific things in the room for Elisha. And she adds on to her house. It doesn't say there was already a room there for him. It was extra work. She had to make space for him. And so Elisha goes and he rests there. He stays there. And just like God, his spirit rests in us. It stays with us. And so when he does this, he goes to the woman and he says, what can I give you? Now remember, she's a notable woman. It does not always mean that she's just Miss Independent and strong-willed. It means she is also very wealthy. It means that she is also doing very well for herself. Elisha offers her to tell her to the king. And she's like, no, I don't need that, because I'm known among my people. I got my own circle in this town of all the people that know me, and that's all I need. I don't need some fancy pants king. I'm doing well on my own. And so then when she is told that she's going to have a child, she's like, don't test. Some translations say, don't lie to me, or don't get my hopes up. Because you can tell she wanted this before. She's wanted it so long that she's already given up for it. And so when she finally does have it, she starts to see that this room, this space that she's made for God in her life has already started blessing her, right? It's a return of investment on God. But the other thing I want to point out is that in this room, there was space for Elijah to work. This wasn't just a room of rest. This wasn't just a room. It wasn't just a broom closet. You know, it wasn't just that spot in the Harry Potter movie where he sleeps underneath the stairs. It wasn't just somewhere else that I made room. See, because the room that you give to God in your life defines how you treat God in your life. Because some of us are just like this woman. We give God a room to rest. We give him a room to work. And we give him that space, and that is his space. It says the woman, when Elisha called her, did not enter the room. She stood in the doorway. Because she recognized that this is Elisha's room. Even though it is a part of my house, it is his room. And he's working in it, so I'm not going to enter in. I'm going to leave him be with it. And so some of us have that room. We have that room with the table, the chair, all these things that make God have all the room he needs to work. But other of us, we have the kitchen and the dining room. You know, that's the people who just get fed when they come to church, right? And then other ones of us have a broom closet because we only want God to come by when we need things cleaned up in our lives. And we only want God to come when we're at our lowest point and say, hey, it's getting really dirty in here. God is your maid service for your life. And then other of us don't have a room at all. We let God in, say, hey, how you doing? And we see him out. It's kind of like Ronnie at Christmas, or Ronnie when he goes somewhere. Ronnie, when he goes somewhere, he goes in, and he goes for a little while. He eats, he talks a little bit, and he leaves, because that's all he came to do. Right? I tell you, I'm not sitting around all day. I did what I came to do. I came by, stopped by, said hello, I ate my food, I'm going home. Right? And some of us treat God like that. Some of us treat God as hey, God, I'm at church. How you doing? Life is good. Glad you're here. I sang my worship songs. I listened to preaching. I didn't come with an intent today. So I'm just going to come in. I'm going to leave out the door. And that's all I wanted to do. That's all I wanted to do. And so God hasn't made any space. You haven't given God any space in your life. And you can be saved and not give God any space in your life. Right? And so the way our room is set up for God is how we define our relationship with God. And so the woman's blessed with her son. She's blessed with this child that she has longed for so long that when God tells her that he will give it to her, she says, don't lie to me. God, who cannot lie, perfect in all his ways, she tells him not to lie to her. And so she gets her child, and years go by. It doesn't say how many. He just grew. So we know he wasn't a baby. He could talk. He could walk. He knew what his head was. He had to be at least getting to an age where he knew what was going on. And so he goes and he's like, my head, and he dies in her lap. She dies holding the blessing that she wanted to have her entire life. And she holds it and watches it fade away. And the thing is about your room and how you build it, the room in your soul, the room in your life that you give to God, is that you can have a great room for God. But if you don't know what it's there for, you'll never see anything change. Because it doesn't say that she left the child. It doesn't say she put the child in her child's room. It doesn't say she put the child in her room. She says she took the child, walked him up the stairs, and left him in the man of God's room on his bed. And then shut the door. The room she would not enter when the man of God was there. She went in and said, this is the place. This is the holiest spot in my life. This is the spot that I know that God dwells in. This is the spot that I know that God works in. And so I'm going to take my problem and I'm going to lay it here and I'm going to leave it here. Because she goes in, she lays it down, she shuts the door, and she walks out. And so she walks out, she gets on her horse, her donkey, whatever it is, and it does say it, but I don't remember it off the top of my head, so you can judge me. But she gets on it, and she goes looking for the man of God whose room that is. And so when she finds him, and we skipped over this, but I'm going to paraphrase it real quick. She finds him, and just like God sees you from a ways away. Elisha knew there was no reason for her to be coming to him because she never did. Elisha stopped by when he was in town. But when you're desperate and you're needing God, you go to where God is. And so she finds him, and she's a little bit of a Karen, the Karens, let me talk to your manager, because Elisha sends Gehazi, his servant, right? So he sends Gehazi, his servant, and he says, go find out how she's doing. And Gehazi goes, hey, lady, how are you doing? And she goes, I'm doing good. I'm doing well. I'm okay. I say that to say this. Sometimes God will tell you to reach out to a person when you're not the one they need. You may know every situation that's going on in their life, but they'll say it's okay because you're not the one they need. They need God. And so she says she's fine, but she doesn't stop coming towards Elisha. She doesn't turn around because the servant came by. She keeps going to the manager. And so when she gets to Elisha, she gets off her donkey and she falls at his feet, crying and weeping. And then Gehazi, of course, the servant, right, just like us, goes, what are you doing? What are you doing? You can't do this. You can't. This is the man of God. You can't go and fall at his feet and touch his feet and cry on his feet and all these things. You can't do that. Because when we see things, we expect people, especially in our area, to just be okay, right? To put on the smiling face and just be okay. They teach it to you in customer service. No matter how bad your day is going, you better smile. That's why I didn't do well in those places. Um, so Elisha stops him. He says, don't you see she's troubled? She didn't admit that she was troubled, but God already knew. And Elisha says, she's troubled, and this is how you know it's Elisha, not God. She's troubled, and I don't know why. And she doesn't tell him why. All she says is, how dare you bless me with a son and deceive me in this way? She doesn't say her son is dead. All he knows is that something's happened to the boy. And immediately Elisha goes, okay, we're going to go take care of it. So he gives his staff to Gehazi. He says, Gehazi, go to her house and lay the staff on the boy. Right? Sending a servant again. And she's like, no, I'm not going to leave you. And so Elisha's like, okay, I'll have to go with you. God will walk back with you to the pain that you left behind. Right? So Elisha gets there. And this is where we pick back up in verse 32. If anybody's wondering where I'm at, because I know I'm jumping all around. But in verse 32, Elisha gets there, and the greatest thing about Elisha's text is it says that he walks in, and he sees a dead child laying on his bed. Not the upper room in the woman's house. Not the just any bed. Not the guest room. It's his room. It's his bed. And so God can recognize where he's been before. God understands where he's worked before. God knows where he has been before. He understands that this is his spot in your life. And so he gets in there and he shuts everybody else out. It doesn't say Elisha and Gehazi. No. It doesn't say Elisha and the woman. No. It says Elisha shuts the door where there's just the two of them. And there's probably a million reasons you can say this for theology, that the Israelites aren't supposed to touch dead bodies, and he didn't want people to know that he touched a dead body with this boy. But the real reason is because when God goes to work in your life, he can't have any distractions. And so when we come to church and we have all these problems going on, we say leave it at the altar and don't pick it up when you come back. See, a lot of us go into our room, we lay our problem at the bed, and then we pick it up and take it back out. Or we lay the problem in the bed, the door is closed, right? The door's closed. Instead of standing in the doorway to see what's going on, we kick open the door, come back in and say, no, I got to mess with it some more, and bring it back out to where we want to be. We like to fiddle. We like to mess with things. And so we go and we keep messing with these things that God is trying to do in our lives. He could keep tearing things up and won't let God work. We won't give him the room, and we won't give him the space he needs to work. If you don't get anything else out, get out the fact that you need to give God the room to work. And that's whatever room you have built for him. If it's the broom closet, let it be the broom closet, but let him still work in it. If you only need him to clean up your life, then let him still clean it up. Right? You can work on the bed and the table and everything that you need for him to do accurate work in your life, but if that's the space you've given him, stop screwing it up. Let God do it. And so, God sees the child that he's blessed him with and brings him back. He brings him back to where he needs to be. He starts his work and he finishes his work because no one interrupts him. Shoot, the woman wasn't even waiting out the door. She wasn't waiting outside for him. She went complete hands off. The servant had to go get her. And so when he goes and gets her, you got to wait. Elisha's probably just sitting there like, oh, okay. Every other time I do miracles, people are right there for him. I guess I got to wait for this lady to come upstairs so she can see that I brought our son back to life, And so she trusted God so much that she completely said, you got it. I got other stuff I got to do. You think you can handle this? God, I know you can handle this. That's why I put him here. I put him in this spot because you can do it. I can't do anything, so I'm going to close the door. You can lock it. Do whatever you got to do. I'm going to go over here, and I got other stuff I got to worry about. I got work. I got bills. I got all these other things that you're making provisions for, but I still have to do my job and completing it and getting everything I need to do those things. So I'm going to keep doing that, and you do what you need to do. Don't even let the thoughts come across my mind of what you're doing. Just let it happen. And so I want to talk about the verses we skipped over, and this is my last point. And my last point is that you can be with God. You can be in his presence. He can reside in your house, and you may not even know God. And so we're going to pick up with just two verses 22 and 23, real quick. And I'm going to give myself a second because I need some water. I'm giving everybody a second here. After the sun dies, this is kind of the verses we skipped here. It says the woman leaves out, and she goes down. She goes to her husband, and that's what we're going to pick up. We're going to pick up with her leaving her son in the room and going to her husband. It says in verse 22 here, it says, then she called to her husband and said, please send me one of the young men and one of the donkeys that I may run to the man of God and come back. And in verse 23, it says, so he said, why are you going to him today? Is it neither the new moon nor the Sabbath? And she said, it is well. The woman's husband built the room. He ate the meals, just the same meals Elisha did. He was in the same room as Elisha. He built the room for Elijah. He was the handiwork behind it. And yet, he still had no idea what to do when problems came up in his life. He still had no clue as to what the room was really there for. He thought it was just a guest bedroom for the guy who stops by every once in a while so he can crash for a night before he leaves out in the morning. And so he builds the room, and he does all these things. He's completely surrounded by one of the most amazing prophets in all of the Old Testament, a man truly that God is speaking through. He's completely surrounded by God's presence, and he has no idea who he is. The woman had to tell him that he was a man of God. And on top of that, when his son comes and his son is hurting and he's in pain, it doesn't say the husband said, take him to the room. It says that the husband said, take him to his mother. And I don't want to knock this guy. I don't want to knock him really, really hard. I just want to give you a clear picture of the differences you can have. Because his idea of what was going on was based off of everything that we would consider as wise and good judgment. I'm going to tell you, me and Ashley have kids, right? If they come and say, I'm sick, I'm going to look at Ashley and go, what in the world do I do? Because I'm going to be like, do I give him medicine? And she'll be like, what do you, no, not that, don't, no, right? I'm going to have to, all right, let's go to your mom and ask her what to do, because I don't know. I'll just, your head hurts? Okay, can we give him this, some Aleve or something? What do we give him, right? And so it makes sense. It makes sense in most cases. Moms are more nurturing than dads. They know what to do. It just like kicks in their head, right? And so it makes sense. But that's not what godly wisdom said. What godly wisdom said was, your son is feeling sick. Take him to the room that I've been in. Take him to the place that I am and lay him down before me. And this can be something that is, real, or it can be just something that is spiritual. Take your burden and lay it there for me, and I'll work on it. I'll lighten it. I'll take it, and I'll make it easier for you. And so the man didn't get that. He didn't get that to the point that when his wife asked for a donkey, he's so confused because it's not one of the days that they go to church. It's not one of the days that they go to their temple and that they go and say, hey, we're going to offer our sacrifice, or we're going to do all these things. We're going to ask for forgiveness. We're going to sing some songs. We're going to listen to the word, and then we're going to get out. He wasn't used to being known to God on a regular basis. He still thought that the only reason he needed to go see Elisha was when the Sabbath was occurring, so that, Sunday service. For them, it was Saturday, but you get what I'm saying. It was their service. It was their church service. And then the new moon, which is just like, oh, okay, it's an extra church service. It's like their Wednesday nights practically, but monthly. But so he doesn't get why she needs to go. Your son just died. And his first thought isn't, let me go to the place that I know where God is. So he didn't know to give his issue to God in the midst of his presence, the midst of everything that's going on with him. And I want to turn somewhere really quick. And I want to talk about his wisdom really, really fast, and then we're done, I promise. So we're going to turn to 1 Corinthians 3, verses 16 through 18. And this is Paul writing. It says, do you not know that you are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwells in you? If any man defiles the temple of God, God will destroy him, for the temple of God is holy, which temple you are. Let no one deceive himself. If anyone among you seems to be wise in this age, let him become a fool, that he may become wise. And the man missed all of this. He missed the fact that God isn't a place that you go. Your room, people have prayer rooms, and that's great, but that's not where God resides in your house. God resides inside of you. He resides with you. Every step that you go, God is right there with you. And so the man didn't understand that it wasn't just the church building. God didn't just reside there. He resides everywhere. And so he goes and he falls short on that, but not only does he fall short on that, he thinks he's wise because the rules of society said, you go to temple on the Sabbath, on the new moon, and that's it. And so in his aspect, that was correct. He was doing everything that was correct. And we can do everything that we think is correct, that the society says is correct. Around here, it's correct to go to church on Sunday because that's what everyone else does. It's correct to leave there and go get your food and have your nice Sunday dinner with your family and then go back home, sleep, and get ready for work the next day. That's what society says is normal. See, but God doesn't live in normal. He lives in the differences. He lives in the thing that doesn't say, I'm not going just to church on Sunday. I'm going to go on Wednesday night, or I'm going to go on this day. He lives in the differences of when you're in your car on your way to work and you're praying to him. You'll notice that you get more out of it than you do when you come and say, oh, Heavenly Father, I am so glad to be here to thank you today, Lord. I am so glad to be in your presence. You know that made-up prayer that you come up and you say when you come to church, so like if someone hears you, they don't think you're weird, right? That same thing that everyone else says. But see, what God lives in is when you're in your car and go, hey, God, how you doing today? Let me tell you what's going on. I know you already know what's going on, but let's talk. Let's talk like we're normal people and just talk to God. I'll tell you what, I get more stuff out of that type of prayer than I do when I go and pray over my meal or I pray before I go to bed tonight, right? And so God lives in these subtle differences in our lives. These things that we decide to push against the norm to get closer to him. The things that decide that God isn't just the room I go into once a week. He's not just the thing I go to when I feel like going to church. He resides with me every day. He is my worship every day. He is my praise every day. He is my teacher, my king, my Lord every single day. And so it's in our room where we find our greatest blessings. It's in this room that we make for God, this space that we give God in our lives, that we can lay our problems down and we can pour ourselves out before God, not worrying about what anyone else does, because we know where to take our problems.